Nehemiah Jones by Lisa Arnoux-Brown. I don't recall how I died, but I know that it occurred a long time ago. Throughout the years since, my family had spent a considerable amount of money trying to reach me through the veil. They wanted to know where the gold was. One such charlatan was Madame Shadow, who failed. I thought to scare her by appearing once, but didn't. It would have propelled her into notoriety she didn't deserve. I refused to communicate with my family because their motives were driven by greed. After a while, they stopped trying. Recently, I had become aware of something, someone. She shone, she was worthy, but I saw that she was mentally blocked. Self-imposed, I suppose. Each day I grow stronger and more aware of her. She has a beautiful soul, despite her hardships. She and her children moved into the house and were restoring it. Their laughter draws me and warms me. She and her daughter Olivia are vibrant, but Olivia is still discovering herself, while her mother just needs to open up. Yet, they are all delightful. Each morning, the family eagerly resume their efforts to restore the house. Today, they are going to concentrate on the upstairs. The house has 3 bedrooms, a bath and kitchen. My bedroom is the first one they entered. Julia the mother, Gordon the teenage son, and Olivia. They looked around the room eagerly. During its prime, my room was quite elegant. The antique four-poster bed, the armoire, side tables, and lamps were of the finest quality available at the time. Now only I and my treasure remain. Mom, this room is going to be easy to clean. There's no furniture in it, said Gordon. Yes, but be careful. The floorboards may be weak since this place has been sitting empty for a long time, Julia replied. Mom, when we're done, can this room be mine? Asked Olivia. It's yours if you'd like, Julia said. Olivia swatted at spider webs energetically, unafraid of the bugs' nests she encountered. She swung her broom vigorously. They soon realized that the room was in better shape than expected, and with some elbow grease will be perfect for a young girl. By late afternoon, the windows gleamed and the room smelled lemony fresh. They painted the walls lilac and threw a purple area rug. Then Gordon and his mother moved Olivia's bedroom furniture in. That night, Olivia was happy to sleep in her own room. I smiled as she murmured in her sleep, hoping her dreams were pleasant. In the following weeks, the Smith family worked hard to get the bedrooms cleaned and furnished. By the end of the month, the house was well on its way to a full recovery. I was overjoyed. The lawyer who had brought the family to the house stopped by to see their progress. He was so impressed, he made them an offer to sell it. Mrs. Smith, you've done a great job reviving this old house. You could recoup what you've already put into it and have a hefty sum as profit. What do you say? Asked Mr. Jonathan Baker. Of Baker and Baker, attorneys at law, said. There was a gleam in his eyes as he looked around. I'm sorry, Mr. Baker. I'm not interested in selling. This house has been in my family close to 150 years, and we'd like to keep it that way, she replied. I see. Well, if you should change your mind, let me know. Have a nice day, Mr. Baker, Julia said as she walked him to the door. Julia Smith was a young widow with 2 children. At 45, she was still attractive, but all she could focus on was getting the house done. Mom, why did that lawyer want to sell our house? Asked Gordon. I'll tell you at dinner. Now help me get the rubbish out to the curb. It's garbage day tomorrow. Julia Smith set the table and called her children down to eat. She cooked a simple meal of mashed potatoes, meatloaf, and string beans. As they ate, they talked about their future in the house. Mom, you promised to tell us the story of this house. How come no one else wanted it? Asked Gordon. Julia put her fork down and looked around the kitchen. Her eyes strayed to the walls, the appliances inside. They were old and worn, but theirs, she thought. A long time ago, when this town was just beginning to flourish, my great-great-great-grandfather bought this land this house stands on. At first the other townsfolk shunned him. He was a black man amongst a sea of white folks. His name was Nehemiah Jones. He built himself a small shack and farmed the rest. One day he packed up and left to join the crew at the shipyard. He became a seaman and was gone for almost a year before he returned. It went on like that for many years. Finally, when he returned for the last time, he tore down the shack and built this house. Then he got married and settled down. The townsfolk became suspicious of him because Nehemiah was rich. They say that he was a pirate and got his gold from the ships he'd plundered. Some of that gold he used to build this house, and the rest he hid in this very house. Gordon's yes lit up. There's gold hidden in this house? If there was, the family got to it a long time ago. All that's left is the house, and now it's ours, Julia said. I remember coming here for summer vacation and they used to talk about Nehemiah. No one had ever found the gold, and the only reason the family hadn't gone broke was because Grandma was a shrewd businesswoman. Mommy, was Nehemiah a slave? Asked Olivia. No, he was the son of a free man. By the time Nehemiah had grown up, there were no more slaves. That's why he was able to buy the land and build this house, Julia said. I heard Cousin Logan saying that we were being foolish. He said that the house was so run down that it might fall in on us in our sleep, Gordon said. Julia laughed. This house is as solid as Nehemiah's resolve to stand his ground. He built it right, and we are lucky to have it. Mom, do you think he's happy we came to live here? Olivia asked.
I'd like to think so.
I think we're lucky even if there isn't any gold. This is better than the shelter back in New York, said Gordon. A shadow crossed over their mother's face, and she forced herself to smile. The past year had been miserable for them, and had it not been for Grandma's passing, they'd never have landed in this house. Grandma left her the house and everything in it. When she received the letter from the lawyer informing her of her inheritance, she had been skeptical. After her grandfather passed, she and her dad had stayed away from the family. Her cousins had always enjoyed their grandmother's love, and she threw money at them. It wasn't until she was married that she found out why she and her father were shunned. Her father had married a woman they felt wasn't right for him and cut him off. The family was well off, but she and her father struggled. Her mother got tired of it and took off. Julia and her father took care of each other and they got by. They received notice that her mother had passed when Julia was a senior in high school. Until the passing of her grandmother, Julia hadn't heard from the family. You can imagine her surprise to learn that the old woman left her the house. It was the miracle she had been praying for. After the fatal accident that took her husband from then, she and her children had lost their apartment. Her wages from her job at the nursing home was barely covering things, and when they had called her into the office, she knew her job was at stake. At first, she had been able to collect unemployment, but after that dried up and with no prospect of another job on the horizon, they moved to a shelter. They slept in a large room and ate meager meals. It was a roof over their heads and they were grateful. Julia was so proud of her children. They were old enough to understand and they didn't complain. One day, about 6 months of living in the shelter, Julia had gone to the post office for her mail. The lawyer's letter was among brochures for things she had no need for. She had gotten dressed and headed for the lawyer's office after seeing the kids off to school. When she got there, both her cousins were there looking down their noses at her. When they all ignored her, she got up to leave. Mrs. Smith, your grandmother specifically requested that you be here. Please sit so that I can get on with reading the will, Jonathan Baker said. Julia sat down and waited patiently. When Mr. Baker had reached the last page, he looked up at Julia. Julia Smith, your grandmother left you the old house located at 1201 Coombs Street in Paradise Cove, Florida, and $10,000. She was so surprised she jumped up. She asked the cousins if they had any objections. The only thing that house is good for is a bulldozer, one cousin had said, and it seemed to be the sentiment of all present. Julia took the keys, deed, and the check from the lawyer, thanked him, and left the office. She had tears in her eyes when she returned to the shelter. The timing was perfect. It was June and school would be letting out for the summer break. When the kids returned home from school, Julia told them. After her husband passed, she took to including them in all decision making. After all, whatever decisions she made affected them too. All right, you guys, I need you to understand what this means for us. Grandma left us the old house in Florida. I know it's big step, but we'd have to move if we want to live in it. So what do you think? I don't care so long as we don't have to stay here, Gordon insisted. Me too, I don't like it here, added Olivia. Julia pulled her children close. Before we make this big move, we must make sure the house is solid. Tomorrow I'll go back to see the lawyer to ask about the condition of the house. The next day she sat down with Mr. Baker to ask about the house. He assured her that it was livable. On her way back, Julia bought bus tickets. The bus ride was long, but they endured, and finally they were standing in front of the old house. The outside was decent, but needed a coat of paint. The lawn was overgrown and in need of mowing and weeding. The inside was run down, but livable. The Smiths walked all over the house, inspecting every nook and cranny. There was a shed out back, and Gordon found a ladder. He climbed up on the roof to check it out and found that it was in great shape too. That evening they slept in sleeping bags in the living room. They were so excited they couldn't sleep. They talked all night about the changes they were going to make, and Julia made a list. They were going to need cleaning supplies, paint, some tools, and gloves. It was 2 weeks before they could leave New York, but it was wonderful. They were going to start fresh. Mr. Baker had made the trip to officially transfer the deed in Julia's name. She thought that finally she and her children were going to be okay. Gordon had insisted that they leave his room for last, and when they had placed his furniture in it, Julia surprised them with a celebratory dinner complete with cake. I am so proud of you guys. You are the best children in the whole world, and I am so lucky to be your mother. Julia gushed as she wiped at her tears. Mommy, don't get mushy, Olivia warned. This is the best summer ever, Mom. I know you were worried about the move, but it's okay. Dad would have loved this house too, said Gordon. Yes, her certainly would have, agreed Julia. This was the first time Gordon spoke of his father cheerfully. His dad's death had hit him harder than Olivia. They had a great relationship. Gordon had been sad, and it took him a while to come to terms with it. Now he was smiling more, and he had unconsciously taken his place as man of the house. Julia realized that Gordon had grown up a great deal. 17 wasn't an adult, but she could see the kind of man he was going to be, and she was proud of him. The Smiths ate, drank, and were merry and went to bed late. Julia made her rounds, checking to see if the doors were locked. They were new to the neighborhood, and although she'd spoken with her neighbors, she wasn't comfortable yet to neglect the safety of her family. Paradise Cove was a small community and the people were friendly, but New York was still coursing through her veins. She couldn't let her guard down just yet. Olivia had made friends with the few kids on the block, and Julia was fine with that. She'd also sent out her resume to the local hospital and nursing home in the area, hoping something will come up. The little bit of money her grandmother left her and what she had saved from her husband's insurance payout was getting dangerously low. She tried not to worry, but she couldn't help it. That night before climbing into bed, Julia slid down to her knees beside the bed and clasped her hands. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for the roof over our heads. It was a miracle and I am grateful. I know that you are looking out for us. The money is going fast and I need a job. I know that you do things in your own time and I'll try to be patient, but please hurry. Watch over Gordon and Olivia. School is going to start soon and they won't know anyone. Please keep the safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I listened to Julia's prayer and felt sad for her. Over the years before they all moved away, I'd listen when they talked about Julia's father. I didn't think it was fair for them to cut him off either. He was the best of them. He shone too. We used to have long and deep conversations. The family thought he wasn't right in the head. We never talked about the gold, and he never asked. He never cared what his family thought of him, and he never told about me. When he left, I told him about the gold and where I'd hidden it. Julia was just like him, proud and hard-working. I never thought to look for him mainly because I couldn't leave the house. All these years of them digging in the ground and tearing up walls yielded them nothing. I hid the gold good. And now it was time to give it to someone who deserves it. She and her children need it more than I do now. It was time to show myself. After Julia had gone to bed, I materialized and hovered by her bed. Julia, I need to talk with you. Can you hear me? I asked gently. Julia's brow creased and she adjusted herself on the bed. She turned onto her back, opened her eyes, and smiled at me. I knew you were here. My dad told me about you. I was so surprised I winked out, afraid suddenly. Julia sat up to search for me and I appeared before her again. Aren't you afraid? I asked her. Why would I be? Are you going to hurt me? She countered. I could never do that. Your father told you about me? Yes, he told me because I could see the ghost of the old man who used to live in our home. Together, we helped him move on. He said that we were special. Julia propped her pillow against the headboard and leaned back. I'm happy that you came to live here. I like your children. I'm happy too. My kids are the best. Tomorrow I'm going to prove to you that I have gold. You deserve it more than anybody. Before your father left, I told him where it was. Nehemiah, I don't think your gold still exists. I'm sure you watched them tear this house apart looking for it. It's not here. That's because it's not in the house nor the grounds. I hid it really good. Just you wait, I'll prove it to you, I told her. Julia nodded and slid her body down and closed her eyes. I left her alone to go check my hiding place. I hid the gold in the only place the family never thought to look. All these years, the gold was safe in my wife's grave. The following morning, Julia got up early. She busied herself with breakfast for the kids. I watched her and I knew that she was pretending not to see me. The kids couldn't, but I know she could. Good morning, Mommy, said Olivia. She took her seat at the table. Good morning, baby. Did you sleep well? I had a dream about Nehemiah last night. I dreamed that he came into my room to watch me sleep. Julia's eyes strayed to where I was standing. She smiled at me. Did he say anything to you? No, he just stood there watching me. Were you scared? No, he seemed friendly. Julia placed a plate of pancakes on the table and then poured some orange juice for Olivia. You believe me, Mommy? Asked Olivia. Of course I believe you. I knew you were special from the day you were born. Gordon came into the kitchen and took his seat beside his sister. Good morning, Mom. What are we doing today? I didn't plan anything. I thought I'd give you guys a break since school starts next week. I'd like you to make a list of what you need for the school year. You're a senior this year, so we need to spruce you up some. I have an interview downtown, and if I get the job, I'll get you some new clothes. Would you like that? Cool, I've grown a lot this year and my clothes are getting tight. It'd be nice if we didn't have to go to Goodwill again, Gordon replied. Hey, we've moved to a whole new state for a fresh start. Of course, I'll get you clothes from a real store. Can't have you looking shabby. What if you meet a girl or something? Mom, that's not funny, Gordon said uncomfortably. Gordon's got a girlfriend, Olivia exclaimed. Livy, don't tease your brother, Julia chided. She took her place across the kids to eat her breakfast. I faded away, enjoying their playful banter. I left the house and headed toward the cemetery. It was close enough so that I wouldn't lose strength. My grave was right beside my dear wife's. I dipped in to make sure that everything was still there. It was just like I left it. The family all thought I'd gambled away my gold, but they're all wrong. Long before I got sick and just before my wife passed, I planned where to hide my gold. I was smart like that. I don't know how expensive things are these days, but I think Julia will make it work. When my wife died, I insisted that I be the one to bury her. The townsfolk and cemetery workers all thought I was eccentric, so they didn't stop me. The grave diggers moved on to prepare another grave while I carefully arranged my gold under her casket. When the workers returned, they helped me finish shoveling the dirt onto the casket. I watched over her grave for a few days until I was sure no one would come digging. I returned to the house to find Julia getting ready to leave for her interview. Nehemiah, I would appreciate it if you wouldn't show yourself to Olivia without my presence. She's only 10 years old, and I don't want her frightened. I would never overstep, dear. I only allowed her to dream about me. Good. We'll talk when I get back. I watched Julia tell the kids that she was leaving. She gave Olivia permission to play with her new friends and cautioned them to not let anyone in the house while she was gone. I kept watch over Olivia as she played with her friends. Gordon was in his room going over his wardrobe. He was a handsome young man with a good head on his shoulders. Julia returned triumphant. She got the job. She didn't waste any time in changing out of her interview clothes and into a pair of jeans, tee, and sneakers. She told the kids that they were going shopping. Gordon was overjoyed, as was Olivia. I waited patiently for them to return. I wanted to show Julia my gold. I wondered if she thought I was lying because she didn't seem too eager when I told her about it. I wanted to prove to her that my gold was real, but I needed to wait for night. It wouldn't be good for folk to see stuff floating in the air. Julia and the kids returned, and I tried to wait for the right time to let her know that I was going to get proof. So I waited while they tried on their new clothes, and after dinner. Once the kids were in bed, I entered her room. Julia was sitting up in bed. She was waiting for me. Nehemiah, I got the job I applied for, so you needn't worry about me. You don't have to give me anything. This house is all I need, and I promise to take good care of it, she said. You don't believe I have gold, do you? I asked. Nehemiah, I believe that you had gold once, but it all gone. I know how greedy my family is, so I hid the gold good. I assure you that I have a fortune worth millions, and I want you to have it, I replied. Julia sat up straight. Wait, the stories are true? Of course they're true. I told your father, but he didn't want it. Why me? Julia asked. Because you are special like your father was. My wife was special too. And I also know that you wouldn't use it foolishly like those fools. Julia's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. With that kind of money, I could really fix this old house up. I can get a car, and the kids can go to college, and I could invest in their future. How do I thank you? Everything you've just said warms my heart. I knew you were the one as soon as you got here, and that's thanks enough. I'm going to get a couple of nuggets for you. I'll be right back. I winked out quickly and made my way to the cemetery. I apologized to my wife for disturbing her and pulled out 4 gold nuggets and hurried back to the house. Julia looked like she was almost all seat but perked up when I appeared. See, this is just some of them, I said, placing the gold on the bed. Julia reached out to take on in her hand. She looked up quickly at him. They were hefty, the size of baseballs. She didn't know what gold was worth, but there they were, and her eyes filled with tears. How many of these did you hide? She asked. There's a whole lot of them. They're probably worth more now, don't you think? I don't know. I can take them to the bank in the morning to see. Are you sure you want me to have them? Julia, no one else deserves them more than you and your children. I'd be right honored for you to have them. I wish I could hug you. Thank you. Because she was making me feel embarrassed, I winked out. The next morning, Julia was cheerful. The kids had new clothes, she'd gotten the new job, and now Nehemiah is giving her a fortune. Nothing could go wrong now. Right after breakfast, she left for the bank with 2 nuggets in her purse. She walked right in and asked to see a financial advisor. Julia had to wait, but she didn't mind. The banker finally called to her and she walked into his cubicle and sat down. Good morning. Sorry for the wait. My name is Joel Bosky. What can I do for you? Good morning. I'm Julia Smith. I wanted to know how much this is worth, Julia stated. Julia placed a nugget on the desk. The banker picked up the nugget to examine and stood up in excitement. His eyes widened and his hands shook. Mrs. Smith, were you intending on investing this? He asked, pointing to the nugget in his hand. I'd like to exchange it for cash. Can I do that here? Mr. Bosky handed the gold back to Julia and asked her to wait. Julia's heart beat hard in her chest, and she worried that bringing the gold to the bank was probably the wrong thing to do. Last night, she did some research and found out that gold was worth a lot of money depending on their weight. The branch manager returned with Mr. Bosky, and he closed the door to his cubicle. There was an air of excitement about him, too. Miss Smith, I'm Mr. McDonald, the branch manager. May I ask how you came to have this gold? It's been in my family for a long time. My father left them for me, replied Julia. This was the explanation she and Nehemiah worked out if questioned. She couldn't very well tell them that her great grandfather's ghost gave her gold, now could she? And she could tell anyone that she sees ghosts either. Are you related to the Jones family? Asked Mr. MacDonald. Yes, my father was Thomas Jones. He passed some time ago. Why do you ask? Julia wanted to know. I was a young boy when I heard the rumors about Nehemiah Jones and the gold he hid in his house. So your father had them all this time. Am I able to do the exchange here? Asked Julia, ignoring his question. The manager's eyes gleamed suddenly. Yes, we can do that here. It is best if you do it all at once. Do you have any more? I have these two and two more at home. I understand that there is a process of authentication involved. Can we get started? Asked Julia. That's right, Ms. Smith. Unfortunately, Mr. Trotter is out of the office now. He should be back in an hour. Can you return then? Julia placed the nuggets back into her bag and left the bank. She was getting a bad feeling from those two. They were acting weird. She returned home and called out to Nehemiah. Nehemiah appeared immediately with his usual smile. Julia, did you go to the bank? Yes, and the bank manager acted shady. I don't think I can trust him. He knew all about you. What do you think I should do? Isn't there another way to cash in the gold without going to the bank? I asked her. Yes, there is, but I thought the bank would be quicker and easier. Then, that's what you should do. I would caution you to not attract unwanted attention. Now that they know you have gold, they may watch you. I know they watched me for a long time. It was the reason I hid it in my wife's grave. What about the family? Don't you think they'll find out? Let me worry about the family. I don't want them to have it. I want you and your children to have it. Okay, I have to go back to the bank for them to authenticate them. I'm afraid I told them I had more than these two. Between them, they discussed what they would do should the bank raise suspicion. It was the reason Nehemiah gave her 4 nuggets. They agreed that they would tell anyone who asks that there were only 4. Julia walked out of her bedroom to find her children standing outside the door. The look on their faces told her that they'd overheard her talking to Nehemiah. Hey guys, I have to go out for a bit, but I promise I'll explain everything when I return. Mom, were you talking to Nehemiah's ghost? Asked Gordon. Yes, but I've got to go. I promise I'll explain it all later. I told you this house was haunted, Olivia told her brother. Julia left quickly. Nehemiah stood by sadly. He hadn't taken into account that the gold would cause Julia problems. He vowed to make it right. Upon Julia's return to the bank, she was met with the manager and Mr. Trotter of Gold Exchanges of Florida. Julia allowed him to examine the nuggets and weigh them. He questioned her repeatedly on where the gold was stored and why she was now cashing them in, if it was in her possession since her father passed. Julia was ready with her answers, and when they seemed satisfied, the bank issued her a check for $52,466.40. Julia promptly opened an account and left the bank. She took her time in returning home. Her children were waiting for an explanation. She didn't know what to say to them. There was a car she didn't recognize parked in front of the house. Mr. Baker got out too, joined her at the door. She led him into the house and into the kitchen. Mr. Baker, I told you that I wasn't interested in selling the house. I really don't appreciate you trying to change my mind, she told him. Miss Smith, I assure you that this is not the case. I have some tax papers pertaining to the house. However, I also got a call from the bank. What are you trying to say, Mr. Baker? Your grandmother had long maintained that Nehemiah had hidden his gold in the house. They'd searched for years without any success. How were you able to find it? Julia took a deep breath and let it out slowly. My father found it long ago. He left them for me, and there was only 4 nuggets, as you already know. I exchanged them at the bank. Did your father always have the gold? My grandmother and the rest of the family thought my father had mental issues because they thought he was able to communicate with Nehemiah. They turned their backs on him cut him off, and neglected me. Nehemiah told my father where the gold was, and when he left, he took them. He kept them all these years for me. The family has instructed me to approach you about their share of the gold, he said. Julia looked sharply at him. There was only 4 gold nuggets, Mr. Baker. Grandmother's will left her children and their children hundreds of thousands. I got this house and chump change. I'm not sharing. Miss Smith, I completely understand, but you must understand that my clients will be pursuing compensation. I just want you to be prepared. Julia led the lawyer out the door and leaned on it. This was beginning to be problematic, she thought. Mom, are you okay? Asked Gordon. Olivia stood beside him, looking worried. Julia sighed and nodded. Come upstairs with me, she said. They followed her to her bedroom and waited. She turned to face them with a nervous smile. Your grandfather, my dad, and I have this gift. We can see and talk with ghosts. When I was a little girl, there was a ghost in our apartment, and we communicated with him. We also helped him move on. When your grandfather passed, I stopped talking to ghosts. I blocked them. When we moved into this house, I knew Nehemiah was here. My dad used to talk to him before he moved away. So I knew he was here, but I didn't want to see him. So you can see him now? Asked Gordon. Yes, and he told me about his gold and gave me 4 gold nuggets. I took them to the bank and now the family wants their share. I don't mean to be petty, but I won't share. The gold is ours. Nehemiah said so. Is he here now? Asked Olivia, looking around the room. Nehemiah, can you show yourself to the children? Julia asked. Only if you want me to. You must hold their hands so they can see me. Julia nodded and clasped Gordon's and Olivia's hands. Almost immediately, Nehemiah's image materialized before them. He was a grizzled old man with a white beard. The crisp blue suit he wore was fading at the edges, and his hair was trimmed short close to his scalp. I see him, Mommy, I see him, Olivia exclaimed. I see him too, Gordon said. Hello, Gordon, Olivia. I am honored to meet you, Nehemiah said. This is so cool, breathed Gordon. Hello, Nehemiah. It's nice to meet you, Olivia said timidly. I am so happy that you came to live here. I have been so lonely. Nehemiah winked out, and Julia let go of the kid's hands. Well, what do you think? I think it's cool that you can see ghosts, but what does that have to do with the gold? Gordon asked. As you know, Nehemiah gave the gold and I took them to the bank. And the bank manager was acting weird, and he knew all about Nehemiah and the rumors that he hid his gold in the house. I had to make up a story that it was left to me by my dad and that there are only 4 nuggets. Mr. Baker just told me that the family wants their share. Mom, are there more than 4 nuggets? Asked Gordon. Yes, but we're going to keep it a secret, okay? Is Cousin Logan and the rest of the family gonna ask us to give the house back? Olivia asked. Oh no, honey, this house is ours free and clear because Grandma left it to us. We just have to worry about paying taxes on it, that's all. But you said that the bank told the lawyer about the gold. They'll think the gold is still in the house. Honey, don't you worry about it. Nehemiah and I will think of something. Now, how about we discuss dinner? What would you like to eat? Can we go out to eat? Julia nodded. Yes, we can do that. Go get changed. Julia watched the children file out of the room. Nehemiah appeared again with his usual smile. If Logan shows up, I'll take care of him and anyone else who threatens you. The gold is mine and I choose to give it to you, Nehemiah said. Thanks, Nehemiah. I deeply appreciate all you've done for us. I don't see how you can do anything if Logan comes after me. I can do a lot more than you think. Being a ghost this long has allowed me a few tricks up my sleeve. Nehemiah, I don't want you to hurt anyone, please. I won't hurt anyone, but I can put the fear of God in them. That's what I can do. Julia giggled. That I would like to see. The ghost in my home when I was a girl was scared at first, but then he realized that we weren't a threat to him. He settled down and became a part of the family. Nehemiah winked out, and Julia took her children to dinner at the diner downtown. The diner was within walking distance, and they had a great time. They walked back leisurely, and when they reached the house, Nehemiah was waiting for them. He was clearly upset, so that he was projecting hard enough that the children saw him clearly. Nehemiah, what are you doing outside? Asked Julia. There's people inside snooping around, he said. Julia went on high alert. She told the kids to stay outside while she went in to check. Nehemiah assured her that he'd keep an eye on the kids. Julia pushed the door open to reveal the lawyer and her cousin Logan. How did he get here so fast, she wondered. How did you get in here? She asked them. Logan turned to her with a wicked smile on his face. I came for my share of the gold, he said, dangling a set of keys in his hands. Julia looked past Logan to Mr. Baker. Didn't you tell him that there were only 4 gold nuggets? She asked him. Don't you dare lie. Nehemiah had a loot worthy of the pirate he was. Now where are you hiding the rest of them? Logan was shouting and Julia was getting frightened. I don't have any more and I'd like for you both to leave me and my family alone, Julia said with more bravado than she felt. Grandma was right about you. She said that you and your father spoke with ghosts. I'm not leaving until I get my rightful share. Gordon burst into the house and he was angry. Why are you harassing my mother? She hasn't done anything wrong. Olivia came in with Nehemiah in tow. She looked scared and there were tear streaks on her face. Mommy, is cousin Logan going to hurt us? Julia, tell him that I will tell him about the gold tomorrow. Logan watched Julia with interest. He's talking to you now, isn't he? Julia nodded. He said that he will tell you tomorrow. Until then, I'd like you to leave. You'd better be telling the truth, he said menacingly, and left with Mr. Baker. Gordon threw his arm around his mother's shoulders and pulled Olivia close. Is Nehemiah going to tell Logan about the gold? He asked. I'm going to give him exactly what he deserves, Nehemiah said, appearing in front of them. You're going to tell him where the gold is? Asked Gordon. You'll see. Now I don't want you to worry. This is something I should have done a long time ago. Come on, guys. It's time for bed. Julia watched her children go up to their rooms and then made sure all the doors were locked. She didn't think Logan would keep his word and not sneak back into the house while they slept. Morning brought sunshine and August heat. Julia was up early as she couldn't sleep. Logan and the lawyer's visit had made her uneasy. What would the family do to her if Nehemiah didn't produce more of his gold? A thump at the front door made her jump and she went to check. There was a package outside her door. She scooped it up and shut the door. The package was from her bank in New York. She had a safe deposit box where she kept some documents in and had sent for it. She took the box and a cup of coffee back to her room. She slid to the floor to open the box. In it were documents from the funeral home that did her husband's services, papers from his insurance company, and a letter she'd almost forgotten about. It was a letter from her father. At the time, she had been too upset to read it. He'd just died, and the sight of his handwriting had been overwhelming. She took a sip of her coffee and opened the envelope. There was a handwritten letter, an official-looking letter in it. She put it down and unfolded her father's letter. My dearest Julia, I am so sorry to be leaving you so soon. I want you to know how proud of you I am. You were the reason I hadn't given up after your mother left. We made such a great team, you and I. I am happy that you found a good man to share your life with, and I hope that when you have children, that they are as good to you as you were to me. Please be careful of the family. It is good that they have kept their distance, but if they come around, a good friend of mine who is a lawyer can help. I have enclosed a copy of grandfather's will. The house in Florida is yours. He left it to you. You can claim it if you want. I hope you get to meet Nehemiah. He can help you too. Be happy and well, my darling. Julia wiped at her tears and unfolded the other documents. One was from the law firm that handled grandfather's will, stating that he was instructed to send a copy to his son, that it was proof that the house was hers. The other was the copy of the will. The will specified that the house and all of its contents were assigned to her. She wondered if that included the gold. Wouldn't be a kick in the head. Outside her door she could hear the kids. She quickly put everything away and went to tend to them. She made breakfast and told the kids that they could go out if they wanted. Olivia was happy to go play with her friends, while Gordon insisted that he was going to his room. Julia knew that he was sticking around because of Logan. She didn't know when he'd show up, and she didn't know what was going to say to him either. She didn't know how she was going to convince him that there wasn't any gold in the house. Another thought struck her as she cleared up in the kitchen. Mr. Baker and Logan seemed to be in cahoots together. How else did he know of her going to the bank? Since moving into the house, he'd come by twice. He never did give her any tax paper for the house when he came yesterday. Then there was the bank calling him about the gold. What was going on? Had they all been watching her and waiting for her to find the gold so they could pounce? What if they placed bugs in her house, hoping she'd say something that would lead them to the gold? Nehemiah, she called out. What is it? When Logan and the lawyer were here yesterday, did they search the house or hide listening devices? I followed them around and they mostly talked about your father taking the gold. Okay, it's just that I wouldn't put it past Logan to spy on me. That's okay. Even if they did spy on you, I would have disabled it. Technology don't like ghosts, he said with smile, and then winked out. Julia was on edge. Lunch came and went, and Logan hadn't shown. When she fed her family dinner, she thought for sure that he would come, but he didn't. However, right after she had gotten the kitchen to rights, he came banging on the door. Julia opened the door to not only Logan, but the other cousin as well, their spouses, and Mr. Baker. Somehow, Julia wasn't surprised. She remembered stories her father used to tell her about how greedy they were and how they'd tear up the walls and dug all around the property looking for the gold. I'm not even surprised that you all came. You'll have to excuse me if I don't offer you anything. It's getting late, so say what you came to say and leave. I can see why Grandma didn't want us to be around you when we were little. You know very well why we're here. Where's the gold? The other cousin snarled. Julia motioned for them to follow her into the living room. She watched as they glanced all around, as if the gold would be there for them to see. Logan, you wanted me to call Nehemiah to ask him to tell you where the gold is, so let me call him for you, Julia said. Everyone sat forward in their seats. Nehemiah, Logan is here. He wants you to tell him where you hid your gold, Julia said loudly. Suddenly there was a gust of wind and Nehemiah appeared. Julia was shocked that he showed. What was even more shocking was the ghost of grandmother winking in and out beside him. The wind died down and grandmother spoke. What do you all want? Her voice was just above a whisper. Grandma, is that really you? Asked Logan. The others were too frightened to speak. Yes, it's me. I cannot stay long. Be quick about it. What do you want? Nehemiah's gold. Where is it? Asked Logan. It's all gone. I've been using it for you, greedy lot. Now that I'm on the other side, I know what happened to it. That fool Thomas has what's left, grandmother said. Logan, who seemed to be the spokesperson for them, looked around and then at Julia. So all that's left of the gold was those 4 nuggets? I told you, but you didn't believe me, answered Julia. Another gust of wind and grandmother's ghost was gone, but Nehemiah stayed behind. Your father spent all the gold, Julia. What's left is rightfully ours, Logan said. I was there when the will was read, Logan. You and everybody else got $500,000 and I a measly $10,000. The gold was worth $50,000. You want me to share that with you too? Asked Julia. What did your father do with the gold, Julia? Asked Logan. A gust of wind and Nehemiah's ghost swayed violently. That's all that was left after the family spent it all. I gave those 4 nuggets to Thomas and he held on to them and never used them. I'm glad his child has them now. The cousins and their family got up and walked toward the door. Mr. Baker turned to Julia. I consider the matter closed, Mrs. Smith. The family will make no further contact. Julia heaved a huge sigh and locked the door behind them. She turned to Nehemiah and smiled. How did you get Grandma to come? That wasn't her. That old battle axe crossed over as soon as she passed. That was a friend of mine. She offered to help. Can ghosts do that? I mean, she looked just like grandmother. I promised that I would protect you and the gold, and I did. They won't bother you anymore. I suggest you exchange the gold elsewhere." Agreed. Well, it's late and I'm going to bed, Julia said softly. Good night, Julia. The next few days, Julia changed the locks on the doors and added extra on the windows. She wasn't taking any chances that Logan and the others wouldn't come back again. She knew that they'd be watching her, so as a precaution, she opened another account in the next county over. Thanks to Nehemiah, she and her children's future was secured. Nehemiah enjoyed several more years with the family before he consented to move on.